Good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of Pivot to Your Purpose podcast. Listen, y'all, I have been gone for a few weeks, but I am so grateful to be back with you all tonight. And y'all, tonight we have a great conversation. I am just looking here because I want to share it on my page. So, y'all, give me a minute. Give me a minute. But I hope that each and every one of you had a great day on today. And I hope that your week is going well. All right, y'all, listen, we finally got some cool weather today because it's been hot. I mean, like really, really, really hot. So I am just grateful that we finally received some 80-degree weather here in the Carolinas. So I don't know what the temperature may be where you're at, but today in the Carolinas, I think we peaked at about 80 degrees. And I was so grateful because this extreme heat, it has been very, very draining. Okay, so y'all listen, if you are joining on tonight, y'all know the routine. Make sure that you like, share the podcast, comment on the podcast as well. We're going to have a great discussion here on tonight. So again, y'all, tune in, and let's have a great conversation tonight. So tonight, this is what we're talking about. Are you losing yourself trying to love them? I'm sure we all have been in a situation before where we have possibly lost ourselves trying to love someone else. It happens every single day. So it's important that we know who we are and know that we don't really have to lose our identity while trying to love someone else. That someone can be from a romantic standpoint, or it can be from a familiar standpoint, meaning family, or it can be from a friendship standpoint. Sometimes, depending on the structure of the relationship, and if there's a lot of giving and less receiving, you can literally lose yourself trying to love someone else. So tonight we're going to dive deep, but I want to remind each and every one of you, if you don't know this here, it's important for you to know this. And this is what is important for you to know. Our foundational scripture for tonight is going to come from Psalm 139, verse 14, which reads, I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I will praise you. I will acknowledge you, God, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Sometimes in relationships, depending on the dynamics of the relationships, you will start to question yourself. You'll start questioning your self-worth. You'll start suffering with self-esteem issues, lack of confidence, all those different things because you're giving, and you're not on the reciprocity end. You're not on the receiving end. So, as I stated, tonight we're going to dive into this conversation. Are you losing yourself trying to love them? So let's talk about our first topic on tonight. Love should never cost you your identity. You should never lose who you are behind loving someone. That's why I read the scripture. You have to know that you are fearfully and you're wonderfully made. There are so many people who will lose their identity trying to love someone or multiple individuals. They'll lose who they really are. Why? Because now they're sacrificing their peace. They're sacrificing their happiness. They're sacrificing their joy, all in the name of love. And they can sacrifice their mental health, all in the name of this thing called love. But you should not lose yourself in the name of love, and you don't know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You can't even really identify who you are. You're looking in the mirror, you saying, hey, I am not the person I was 5 years ago. Why? Because you have found yourself in relationships that have now dictated your identity on who you actually are. When you were a jovial person, when you were a laughable person, when you just, basically you was the life of the party. Now, all of a sudden, that light have diminished. That identity of who you once was is gone now, because now you have given so much, but yet and still the person on the other end is not loving you and treating you the way you should be treated. So it's important that love should never, ever cost you your identity. You should know who you are. All right. So that's the first thing. The next thing is this. Some people are given so much they no longer recognize themselves. Kind of goes back to the identity part. They don't even know who they are. If you ask them, well, who are you? What do you love? What do you enjoy doing? They can't even answer those basic questions. And then if you sit down and have a conversation with them, they will even tell you, I don't even recognize myself. I don't even know who this new person is. Why can't they recognize themselves? Because they have lost that identity of who they once were in the name of love. So it's so important that you don't give so much in a relationship where you no longer recognize yourself. If you ever get to that point, you need to take a step back and you need to reevaluate the relationship. And I want to reference back what I stated earlier. That relationship, it can be from a romantic standpoint. The relationship can be from a friend standpoint or even a family standpoint. You have to evaluate that relationship to see if you're losing who you really are. And if you are losing who you are, you really have to figure out, am I going to stay in this situation and I don't have my true identity? I'm no longer that loving person. I'm no longer that jovial person. I'm no longer, as I stated, the life of the party. I'm no longer that person that I used to pour, but no longer am I pouring anymore. You have to say, am I happy in this state? And if you're not happy in this state, you have to reevaluate the dynamics of that relationship. And then you have to make the determination if you're going to stay in that or if you're going to remove yourself from that situation. So that's very, very important. So again, if you're watching, feel free to jump in these comments. Y'all know I love to shout you out. So feel free to comment so that we can engage. All right. So the next thing I want to talk to you all about, keeping the peace should not mean losing your voice. Let me reference this topic again. Are you losing yourself trying to love them? And what happens? Sometimes individuals say, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to be quiet because I want to keep the peace. No. You should not have to silence who you are and your voice just to keep the peace. Because when we say, oh, I'm just not going to say anything because I'm just going to keep the peace, what happens is internally, you're in a war. You're in a war in your mind. You're in a war in your spirit. Just because you're saying, I want to keep the peace so I can continue to maintain this relationship where love resides. But where true love resides, it should not cost you silencing your voice. It should not cost you sharing your thoughts. It should not cost you making statements or bringing up awareness in regards to a stance or a situation that may have transpired in your relationship. Because as I stated, even though you say I'm keeping the peace, no, you're not. You're just basically in a shutdown mode. But inside of you, you're in an entire warfare. All right. So we had a comment that came in here. Red X said, you speaking facts. Right. You're speaking facts. And the thing about it is, I have seen so many people, or I have seen people, let me say this like that have stated, I'm gonna be quiet and just keep the peace. Now, a timely word is important because you have to, as I stated, you have to know where a person's mind is. You have to see, if the person is their mindset. Because if the mindset is not right, then whatever you say is just going to create, is going to create that warfare, or it's going to create that aggressiveness in the conversation or a hostile conversation if the mindset is not in the right place. But if the mindset is in the right place, not saying anything is not keeping the peace. You love someone, if they love you, you should be able to have a conversation. You should be able to talk. You shouldn't have to lose who you are because you call yourself loving this person, so you're not going to say anything. I don't think that's a good idea or a recommendation. All right, let's move on to the next one. Saying yes when you want to say no is not love. Many times individuals lose themselves because they feel like they have to agree with everything or with majority of the things that they are in a conversation about with the person. Again, now I'm keep referencing this. If it's from a romantic standpoint, friendship standpoint, or a family standpoint, you feel like you have to say yes to everything because you feel like there is love in the yes. I'm here to remind you on tonight, there is love in the no. You can say no to some things and still love that person. You don't have to be a yes, ma'am, no, yes, ma'am, yes, sir person. You could be a no, ma'am, and a no, sir person and still love that person. But sometimes we feel like I have to say yes. Or if I don't say yes, it's going to cost me my relationship with this person. If saying no costs you a relationship with someone, then guess what? That relationship was not meant to be. Irregardless of who that person is, that relationship was not meant to be. And in this life, you will find out what relationships are made of. When it comes to situations like this, when you asking a person to do something, or you asking and they say, no, I can't do it. And they feel like, oh, you don't, what's wrong with you now? You in your feelings or something? You can't do it? No, I cannot do that for you right now. I'm not going to lose who I am being your yes person all the time. I'm not going to do that. So that's important. All right. Red X said correct. People shouldn't take receiving awareness from a good place to offense. Listen, Red X, that right there in itself is powerful. Because you know what? People feel like when you bring something up to them, they automatically take on the spirit of offense. And when they take on the spirit of offense, they automatically get on the defense. But raising awareness is so that you can be just that, aware of whatever the situation may be that we're bringing awareness to. But sometimes they can take it so personal, and it's not even personal. But if you feel like that you cannot raise awareness with someone, then guess what? You're losing yourself trying to love that person because you feel like, I no longer have a voice in this situation anymore. I no longer voice my opinion in this situation anymore because guess what? You're automatically going to be on the offense, or you automatically going to be on the defense, and you're ready to just pop off or snap at me. So we got to realize we cannot lose ourselves by bringing awareness. So that was a really, really good point right there. Really good point, Joshua. I love that. All right. So let me go to our next one here. This is another good one. People pleasing is not the same as love. Kind of go back to what I just stated earlier. You have people who feel like if they're a people pleaser, then that equates to love. No, it don't. That equates to use. You're being used. And you really sometimes don't even realize it, that you're being used. So, as I stated, you have to be okay with saying no. There's nothing wrong with saying no. As I stated, there is love in the no. We're going to go to a quick commercial and we'll be right back.
Have you ever felt like you've poured into everyone else and forgotten about yourself? You've been strong for everybody else. You've carried the weight. You've survived the storms. But now it's your turn. What if one day could help change your next season? What if healing, clarity, and purpose were waiting for you? Join hundreds of women for an unforgettable experience. Join us for an experience designed to refill your spirit. This is the 2026 Sister Pour Into Me, the Rebirth Experience. Refill your heart. Refill your faith. Refill your strength. Refocus your vision. Refocus your purpose. Refocus your future. And reemerge stronger, wiser, and more empowered than ever before. Hear from dynamic women like the internationally acclaimed musical artist and gifted violinist Kimberly Michelle, and gospel powerhouse vocalist and internationally recognized recording artist Diana Washington Collins. Ready to inspire and pour into you. Hosted by our lead visionary, Lenora Lassiter, who was called to create this room for you. Join Lenora Lassiter, Tiffany McIntyre, Carmen McLean, and Lisa DeCandia for this transformational encounter. Mark your calendars for October 10th from 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Join us at the New Life Center at Haymount UMC, located at 1700 Fort Bragg Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28303. Your healing, your breakthrough. This is more than an event. This is a moment of renewal, restoration, and rebirth. Do not miss what God has prepared just for you. Don't miss the Rebirth Experience. Your next chapter begins here. Purchase your early bird tickets now before they are gone. Visit www.sisterpourintomeme.org and click on the Rebirth Experience tab today.
All right, y'all. So listen, the Rebirth Experience 2026 is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. When I tell you, this transformational women's leadership experience will be one for the record books. It will be. Trust me, it will be. You all will experience some amazing, amazing women that is ready to pour. And I have something that's going to come out a little bit later on, but you're going to experience the Lenora 2.0. When I say the Lenora 2.0, I am saying the Lenora 2.0 because the first half of my life looked a little different. The second half of my life looks totally different. And on that day, you will get to experience the second half of my life, which is the Lenora 2.0. So y'all make sure if y'all haven't got your tickets, grab your tickets. www.sisterpourintomeme.org. Grab your tickets today. I'm telling you, it is an experience that you do not want to miss. So let's jump back into our conversation on tonight. Next, you deserve to be heard, not just needed. We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. In a relationship, don't lose yourself because you become silent. But people want you to do. They have a to-do list. They have a request list. Or some people's like the ask list. They want you to constantly do something for them all the time, but they don't want to hear you. They don't want to hear the feedback. Whether the feedback is constructive or whether you just share something in general, they don't want to hear it because they sit with the mentality that they are right all the time. And that is a terrible person to deal with if the person feels like they are right all the time. None of us are right all the time. Sometimes we are wrong. And when we are wrong, it is okay to admit, I was wrong. I was in error. But sometimes individuals feel like, and they're in a relationship, they feel like if they're on the dominant end, they feel like everyone else got to dance to their music. You can't say anything. And if you can't say anything, guess what? Again, as I said, you're losing who you are. You're losing your voice. And it starts to silence you. And you know what happened? You will start taking on that mentality like your voice does not matter. And if it happens in a relationship, let me tell you what happens. Sometimes it can spill over in other areas of your life. On your job, in conversation with others, friends, you feel like, oh, I better keep my mouth closed. I can't say anything. Because why? Someone with a narcissistic mentality have manipulated you and controlled you to a point you feel like you can't even use your voice anymore. That is not a good place to be at all. Okay? So our next point is this. Sometimes we lose ourselves trying to keep people who were never meant to define us. Some of us try to hold on to people who was just never meant to be. And it is okay to release them. Seasons reveal things. And it's okay. Don't lose who you are trying to love them past the season that they were probably assigned to be in your life. Some are assigned and some was never assigned. We personally select them. But there are people who God put in our lives for seasons. And then there are people that God put in our life permanently. But the people that we choose to be a part of our life, and that person is constantly bringing toxic behaviors, toxic conversations to your life, you trying to love on them past the time that they should be in your life or shouldn't have been in your life anyway. So stop trying to hold on to those folks. Let them go. Let them be. Because I guarantee you, when they go, God will put the right people or person in your life that was meant to be there. Stop holding on to what he's trying to pull you away from. Sometimes we can hold our own self hostage by our own behaviors of trying to hold on to people, trying to love them, but yet and still they're hurting us. Release them and let them go. Bid them farewell. Adios. I wish I knew some other languages, but I don't. But allow them to just go. All right? So don't lose yourself trying to hold on to people that was never meant to be. It's okay to let them go. Love should feel safe and not draining. If you are around someone and it feels like they are draining you, I don't care who it is. Remove yourself. If they are draining you, some people, you can come into their presence and it feels like they're draining you. And if you have a spirit of discernment, discernment will tell you, oh, this is not the right thing, this is not the right person. Spirit of God will let you know that. Some people say, oh, I feel the energy draining me. However you define it. Stop allowing people to drain you. And you're saying, well, I love them. You better let them go. They're going to mess you up mentally, and they're going to mess you up emotionally, and they are going to mess you up physically. What do you mean by physically? In your health. It is going to show up in your health. So you got to let them go because they are draining you. It's like a parasite. They're sucking everything out of you. They're eating your inside, and you're like, what is going on with me? I'm not myself. Because you're hooked to something that's draining you. And if you don't feel like yourself, you're not yourself, think about, who am I attached to? And is this attachment draining me? Is this attachment detaching me, one, from my relationship with God, detaching me from my peace? Y'all follow me here? Detaching me from my happiness, detaching me from my joy, detaching me from my prosperity, detaching me from my health. Because you're attached to something that's draining you and is detaching you away from the things that you should be enjoying. That's something that you got to really look at and you have to evaluate. Next up, boundaries are not walls, they are wisdom. If you love people, regardless of who they are, you have to have boundaries. This comes from family, friends. You got a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. You have to have boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are wisdom. Because when people overstep boundaries, chaos can be created. That's why boundaries are drawn. Think about a person who lives in a home. They generally have a fence. That fence dictate boundary lines from that neighbor. Why? Because now that neighbor know, hey, this is where my property line stops. So I just can't go over next door and pull up a chair, pull out a grill, and start barbecuing in my neighbor's yard. That's going to create chaos with that neighbor. That's why fences and that's why property lines are drawn, to prevent chaos. So you got wisdom enough to know, if that is that man's fence, that's his property line, I'm not going over on that property line. That's what you got to have in your relationships. You got to have boundaries because people will cross those boundaries. And you have to articulate what your boundaries are. Because sometimes people may not know what they can and cannot do. So you got to outline it. In relationships, you got to outline it. Listen, I'm going to tell you, if we have a conversation, y'all know, y'all have already heard this before, and I continue to say this. You're not going to yell at me. You're not going to point your finger at me. And please don't get in my face. But listen, we can have a conversation. We can disagree. We can agree. But we got to respect the boundary. You can't be in my face and your hands flowing and, all this acrobats with your neck and hands, and you can't do that. You have to communicate what your boundaries are with people. Now, that's just from that standpoint. When they want you to do, you're like, listen, I'm not going to be able to do this. They ask you, can you do this all the time? Can you do that all the time? You got to say, listen, no, I have my own responsibilities. I have things I have to do for myself. You have to have that boundary set for you, because that's wisdom. Wisdom prevents chaos. Going back to the property line. Somebody created a fence because they realized if we don't create the fence, people, like I stated, going to be in each other's property or own each other's property. And it's going to create what? Chaos. So somebody had enough wisdom to say, let's create a fence. Boundaries are not walls, they are wisdom. Let's continue to move. This is a big one. Are you seeking love or are you seeking validation? You should not lose yourself loving someone. But sometimes people will lose themselves trying to seek validation. I would say this, don't do it. You got to love yourself. It goes back to what I read earlier. You got to know that you are fearfully and you're wonderfully made. God created all of us. Right? But sometimes people feel like they got to seek validation from someone else to tell them, oh, you're wonderful. You're beautiful. You're nice. You're this, you're that, you're this. When I read earlier in the beginning, I read this scripture, Psalm 139:14, I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God already told me who I am. Now, when I was younger, I didn't realize this, right? But now that I know who I am, no, I'm not going to seek a person's validation in the name of love. Let's go to the next one. What you continually tolerate will eventually define the relationship. What you tolerate at the beginning, that's going to help define that relationship. What you allow can help and will eventually define that relationship. So my mother told me this. When I met my husband, she said, don't start nothing that you can't keep up with. So whatever you start tolerating and you start doing at the beginning and you start seeing at the beginning, it's not going to change unless God changes it. If it's a good thing, great, celebrate it, because I'm not going to lose myself trying to love you. But if these are negative and red flags I'm seeing now, you think that's going to change? That's going to define the relationship. And a lot of people, if they can admit right now that are in marriages, situationships, they will tell you, I ignored the red flags. I'm just saying. So guess what? Don't lose yourself. But let's look at some reflective moments. You got to ask yourself, Where am I losing myself in this relationship or relationships? Where am I losing myself? That's important. You can look at this from a relationship standpoint with people, and then you can look at it from a relationship standpoint with God. You start losing who you are. And let me go on the spiritual side for a minute. Your prayer life ain't where it used to be. I said ain't. It's not where it used to be. Reading your Bible is not where it used to be. Spending time with God is not where it used to be. Your mind is not where it used to be. So you have to ask yourself, where am I losing myself? God, show me. And if we listen and sit still long enough, guess what? He will show you. He will say, you're losing yourself, daughter. You're losing yourself, son, trying to love them. But I need for you to revisit who you are and how I made you and your relationship with me. Because a strong relationship is built on Jesus Christ. And you're not going to lose who you are if your relationship is built on him. Solid and strong foundation. So I had to bring that piece in. Another reflection piece is this. What am I afraid will happen if I speak up? Stop being silent in things. You got to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What is causing me to be quiet? What is causing me to be silent when I know I should be speaking up on some things? Because silence, as we stated earlier, is not the answer. Because you're losing your voice. You're losing who you are as a person. All right? So I want to end with this one. A mindset shift is this. You have to say to yourself, I will not lose myself trying to be loved. Don't lose who you are. Please don't lose who you are. Don't lose your peace. Don't lose your happiness. Don't lose your health. Don't lose your wealth. Don't lose the ones that you know truly love you because you're trying to love a person that's not meant to be. That's something that you have to ask yourself. So I'm grateful for each and every one of you all who attended tonight's podcast. For those who watch the replay, please do not lose yourself trying to love them. It's a question of reflection. You all have an amazing night. Thank you for tuning in.